I found my parents' secret will one afternoon while sorting through some old papers in my dad's office. It wasn't planned, I hadn't intended to stumble across such a thing, but there it was, tucked neatly in a manila envelope among stacks of outdated documents. The will wasn't old, though. It was dated just a few weeks after their wedding anniversary, where I had surprised them with a brand new SUV. They'd cried and hugged me so tightly I thought my ribs might crack, telling me how proud they were of everything I'd accomplished. I unfolded the document and began reading. My eyes darted over the legal jargon until I found the part that mattered, all assets and property to be transferred to our daughter, Jessica Martin. I reread the line, hoping I'd misunderstood. But there was no mention of me. Not even a footnote. Everything, the house, the car, and whatever else my parents owned, was going to Jessica. My stomach churned. It wasn't about the money or the inheritance itself. I'd built a life for myself and didn't need their wealth. What gutted me was what it symbolized, the years of love and support I'd hoped were genuine, now seeming conditional and selective. Had their gratitude, their pride, all been an act? The sound of car doors slamming outside broke me from my daze. I heard their voices approaching the house, laughing about something as they carried shopping bags to the front door. "Robin?" Mom called out cheerfully as the door opened. "We're back. Where are you?" I stood in the living room, the will still in my trembling hands. When they walked in and saw me, their smiles faltered. Mom's face went pale, and Dad stopped in his tracks, the bag slipping from his hands. "Would someone like to explain this?" I asked, my voice surprisingly calm despite the storm raging inside me. They didn't need to look closely to know what I was holding. "Robin," Dad started, stepping forward cautiously. "It's not what you think." "Really?" I interrupted, holding the document higher. "Because it seems pretty straightforward to me." Mom recovered first, though the softness in her expression was gone, replaced by that familiar sternness I'd seen countless times when she wanted to assert her authority. "You had no right to go through our private papers," she snapped. "Private?" I echoed, my voice rising. "In the house that I've been helping pay for? The same house where I've been covering your utilities every month?" "Robin," Dad said, his tone placating, "this isn't about you. Jessica just what?" I cut him off. "Deserves everything? Deserves it more than me?" Dad looked uncomfortable, but Mom didn't hesitate. "Jessica needs the help, Robin. She has children to think about. A family. You don't need this the way she does." The word struck me harder than I'd expected. It wasn't just that they were leaving me out, it was the blatant way they dismissed my value. "It's not about needing it," I said, my voice trembling. "It's about respect. If you wanted to leave everything to Jessica, fine. But you could have told me. Instead, you went behind my back, after everything I've done for you." Mom's face twisted into a scowl. "We don't have to explain ourselves to you. It's our property, and we can do what we like with it." I stared at them, struggling to comprehend their logic. "Your property?" I repeated. "The property I've been maintaining? The bills I've been paying? The car I just bought for you? Don't you dare throw that in our faces," Mom shot back, her voice rising. "We never asked for any of it. You chose to do that. Because I thought you appreciated it," I snapped. "Because I thought it mattered to you." Mom opened her mouth to retort, but Dad held up a hand, his tone strained. "Let's not escalate this, Robin. You're successful. You've made something of yourself. Jessica's struggling. It just makes sense." I didn't wait to hear the rest. I dropped the envelope on the coffee table and turned to leave. "Keep it," I said over my shoulder. "Keep all of it." Growing up, I was always different from the rest of my family. My older sister Jessica was the golden child. She excelled at school, went to college, married her high school sweetheart and settled into a picture-perfect life. She was everything my parents wanted in a daughter. And then there was me. From a young age, I had one dream, to become an artist. While other kids were playing outside or obsessing over sports, I spent my afternoons sketching in my notebooks. Superheroes, magical creatures, cartoon animals, I loved creating worlds of my own. My parents didn't share my enthusiasm. They humored me when I was little, calling my doodles cute, but their patience wore thin as I got older. "That's nice, Robin," Mom would say when I showed her a drawing. "But you should focus on your schoolwork. You'll never get anywhere with silly cartoons." After high school, while Jessica went off to college, I made the decision that would cement my reputation as the family's black sheep. I enrolled in a 3D modeling course instead of going to university. Mom didn't speak to me for 3 days after I told her. When she finally did, it was only to tell me I was making the biggest mistake of my life. "You're throwing your future away," she said, her voice cold. "Do you want to end up working at some dead-end job, barely making ends meet?" Dad was no better. At dinner, he'd shake his head and mutter about how cartoons aren't a real career. But I didn't care. I was stubborn, and I believed in my dream. It wasn't easy at first. My early animations barely got any views, and I was scraping by on odd jobs to make ends meet. Jessica and her husband, Tom, made sure to remind me of my struggles whenever they could. "Have you seen the comments on your latest video?" Jessica said one Sunday, scrolling through her phone with a smirk. "Yikes. Maybe animation isn't your thing." Tom leaned over her shoulder, chuckling. "Yeah, those people are ruthless. Maybe you should try something else, Robin." Their words stung, but I refused to let them discourage me. I threw myself into my work, studying successful animators and improving my skills. Slowly, things began to change. 10 subscribers became 100. 100 became 1,000. My parents, however, remained unimpressed. "When are you going to get a real job?" Mom asked one afternoon. "You can't keep living in your little fantasy world." I wanted to tell her about my growing success, about the sponsorship deals and the rising subscriber count. But part of me wanted to wait, to prove her wrong in the most undeniable way possible. 3 years after I started my YouTube channel, everything changed. My hard work was finally paying off, and my animations had gone from niche obscurity to mainstream success. My subscriber count grew by the thousands each week, and sponsorship deals started rolling in. The money was no longer a trickle, it was a steady flow. I was earning more than enough to support myself, and for the first time, I started thinking about things I'd never imagined before. A new apartment, better equipment, maybe even hiring a small team to help expand my channel. But I didn't tell my family. Not yet. The moment I revealed I was doing well, I knew they'd start asking questions. They'd downplay my success or find some way to make it about Jessica and her real-world struggles. So I kept quiet, letting them think I was still the same struggling artist, scraping by on ramen and dreams. Then, one Sunday dinner, I decided it was time to tell them. Mom had made her famous lasagna, and Jessica and Tom were already there, chatting about her latest work promotion. The usual chatter filled the dining room, Jessica bragging, Tom nodding in agreement, and my parents hanging on to every word. "I have an announcement," I said, setting my fork down. Everyone turned to look at me, their expressions varying from mild curiosity to annoyance. "I'm moving out next week," I said. "I've rented an apartment." The silence that followed was glorious. "You what?" Jessica finally said, her voice sharp. "Where did you get the money for an apartment?" Dad frowned. "Robin, are you asking us to help pay for this?" "No," I said, a smile tugging at my lips. "Actually, my channel is doing really well. Well enough that I could afford a house if I wanted to." Mom dropped her fork, her mouth hanging open in shock. Jessica's eyes narrowed, suspicion flickering across her face. "How much are you making?" she demanded, her tone almost accusatory. "Enough," I said simply, refusing to elaborate. They peppered me with questions for the rest of the meal, trying to pry more details out of me. But I kept my answers vague, enjoying their confusion. The next morning, I moved into my new apartment. It wasn't massive, but it was mine. Well, rented, but still a far cry from the cramped, dingy space I'd lived in before. I turned one of the bedrooms into a dedicated animation studio, complete with state-of-the-art equipment. And from there, things only got better. My channel kept growing, and with it came opportunities I'd never dreamed of. Merchandise deals, collaborations with other creators, and even offers to work on animated shorts for companies. The money was rolling in faster than I could spend it, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly independent. It wasn't long before my success became impossible to hide. I showed up to a family dinner wearing designer jeans and carrying a leather bag, nothing extravagant, but clearly a step up from my usual attire. Jessica noticed immediately. "Is that Gucci?" she asked, trying to sound casual but failing miserably. "Maybe," I said, hiding a smirk. That's when the tone started to shift. It began with small things, Dad mentioning how the water bill had gone up, Mom casually bringing up the cost of repairing the refrigerator. At first, I didn't think much of it. They'd never directly asked for money, and I was happy to help. One evening, Dad said, "The property taxes went up again. It's getting harder to keep up with all the bills." I wrote them a check right there at the dinner table. Their gratitude felt good, like I was finally proving my worth to them. But soon, the requests became more frequent. The roof needed repairs. Jessica's kids needed school supplies. The washing machine broke down. Every week, it seemed like there was a new crisis, and I was always the solution. I didn't mind at first. I had the money, and helping my family felt like the right thing to do. Then, for Mom and Dad's 35th wedding anniversary, I decided to go all out. I hosted a huge party at their house, complete with catered food, decorations, and dozens of guests. But the real surprise came at the end of the evening, when I handed them a small box. Mom opened it, her expression confused as she pulled out a set of car keys. "What's this?" she asked, looking at me. "Go look outside," I said, grinning. Parked in the driveway was a brand new SUV, complete with a giant red bow. It wasn't the most expensive car on the market, but it was safe, comfortable, and perfect for them. Mom burst into tears, and Dad hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. "We're so proud of you," Mom said through her sobs. So proud. For a moment, I felt like I'd finally earned their approval. Like I was no longer the black sheep, but an equal member of the family. But that moment didn't last. 2 weeks after the anniversary party, I found myself back at my parents' house. They'd gone out for the morning, and I decided to help Mom with her ongoing project of organizing the family's old documents. That's when I found the will. Reading it felt like a punch to the gut. I could barely believe what I was seeing. Everything, the house, the car, all their assets, was being left to Jessica. My name wasn't mentioned once. I tried to convince myself it didn't matter. I had my own success, my own money. But the betrayal burned. It wasn't about the inheritance itself, it was the realization that, even after everything I'd done for them, they didn't see me as part of their future. When they got home, I confronted them. The conversation quickly devolved into shouting. Mom accused me of invading their privacy, while Dad tried to justify their decision. "You don't need it, Robin," Dad said. "Jessica does. She has kids to think about. You have your own life." "That's not the point," I shot back. "You could have talked to me about it. Instead, you went behind my back and lied to me." Mom crossed her arms. "We didn't lie. It's our property, and we can do what we want with it." "Your property?" I said bitterly. "The house I've been helping pay for? The car I bought you? That property?" "Robin, be reasonable," Dad said, his voice strained. But I wasn't in the mood to be reasonable. "I'm done," I said, turning to leave. "No more bills, no more gifts, no more help. From now on, you're on your own." The drive back to my apartment after that confrontation was a blur. My thoughts raced as I replayed the argument over and over again. Every word stung. The people I had spent years supporting, both financially and emotionally, had taken my generosity for granted. Worse, they'd excluded me entirely from their future plans without so much as a conversation. For the next few days, I avoided their calls and texts. My phone buzzed constantly with missed calls from my parents and Jessica. When I didn't respond, the tone shifted from guilt-tripping to outright anger. Jessica finally left me a voicemail that began with, "I can't believe how selfish you are," and ended with, "Mom and Dad are heartbroken, and it's all your fault." I didn't reply. A week later, I heard the knock I'd been expecting. When I opened the door, Mom and Jessica were standing there, arms crossed, their expressions a mix of anger and indignation. "We need to talk," Mom said, pushing past me into the apartment. Jessica followed without waiting for an invitation. I stood in the living room, arms folded, as they launched into their pre-rehearsed speech. "You can't just abandon your family," Mom began. "After everything we've done for you," Jessica added, her tone dripping with accusation. "Everything you've done for me?" I repeated, incredulous. "Are you serious? For the past 5 years, I've been the one paying your bills, keeping a roof over your heads, and helping Jessica stay in her apartment. And this is how you repay me?" Jessica rolled her eyes. "Oh, here we go. You always act like you're so generous, but we never asked for your help. You chose to do that." Mom nodded in agreement. "You're acting like we owe you something, Robin. But we're your family. Helping each other is what family does." I couldn't help but laugh, a short, bitter sound that echoed in the room. "Helping each other?" I repeated. "That's funny, because it seems like I'm the only one doing the helping. What exactly have any of you done for me?" Jessica's face flushed with anger. "We supported you when you were struggling." "Supported me?" I shot back. "You mean mocking my career, doubting my choices, and reminding me every chance you got that Jessica was the successful one? That's not support." "Robin, you're being unreasonable," Mom said, trying to keep her voice calm. "Jessica has kids to think about. She needs the house and the inheritance more than you do." "And what about me?" I asked, my voice steady. "Don't I deserve to be part of this family? Or am I just your personal ATM?" Mom opened her mouth to respond, but I didn't give her the chance. "I'm done," I said firmly. "No more bills. No more rent. No more anything. You're on your own." "Robin, don't do this," Mom pleaded, her voice trembling. "We're your family." "No," I said, shaking my head. "You stopped being my family a long time ago. Now, you're just people who take and take without giving anything back." Jessica started to argue, but I held up a hand to stop her. "I want you both to leave," I said. "Now." The next morning, I called the insurance company to report the SUV for repossession. It was still registered in my name, and within 24 hours, it was towed from my parents' driveway. The backlash was immediate. "How dare you take the car?" Mom's voicemail screamed. "You gave it to us. That's theft." Jessica's texts were even worse, filled with insults and accusations. "You're so jealous of me you'd rather see us suffer than let us have what we deserve. You're pathetic." I didn't respond. Instead, I focused on my work. My animation team and I had just started a new project, a series that was pushing the limits of what we could do creatively. Channeling all my energy into something positive helped me process the anger and hurt. Meanwhile, the family drama continued to play out on Facebook. Mom posted a lengthy status about how her ungrateful daughter had abandoned her family. "After everything we've done for her, she's turned her back on us in our time of need. A child's duty is to care for their parents, but some children only think of themselves." The comments came rolling in, but not in the way she probably expected. "Isn't this the daughter who's been paying your bills?" one of my cousins replied. "You mean the one who bought you a car and sent you on a Hawaii vacation?" added an aunt. "Sounds like you were taking advantage of her," someone else chimed in. Jessica jumped into the thread, calling me greedy and spiteful. She claimed I'd always been jealous of her and was punishing the family for no reason. The whole thing was both infuriating and ridiculous. That evening, I blocked them all on social media, cutting off the last avenue they had to contact me. 6 months have passed since I walked away from my family, and my life has never been better. The time and money I used to spend supporting them now go toward building my own dreams. I recently purchased a beautiful apartment in a high-rise with floor-to-ceiling windows and plenty of space for a home animation studio. I even adopted a dog, a goofy, floppy-eared rescue who's become my constant companion. My YouTube channel continues to thrive. We recently hit 10 million subscribers, and my team and I are working on a project that could lead to an animated series on a streaming platform. Sometimes, I think back to that day in my dad's office when I found the will. It still stings to know how little they valued me, not as their financial safety net, but as a person. But then I remember how much lighter I feel now. How much more I can accomplish when I'm not weighed down by their constant demands and manipulations. Some people might say I'm cold for cutting them off. But here's the thing, they stopped being my family long before I stopped sending money. They just didn't bother to tell me. I had to find that out for myself, buried in a manila envelope in my father's office. Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe and turn on notifications to be the first to have Radish and real stories with you. Have a great day.